Hi, what's up YouTube? In today's video I'll be doing a quick review on this awesome crown molding, and it's actually not made out of wood, it's actually made out of a high density foam. I love the material because it's really easy to work with. So this product is actually made by Nomastyl, and it is called the polystyrene crown molding. Again, it's like a high density foam, and it's a lot easier to work with and lighter than using, like, say, a PVC material or even a MDF or a wood material. So if you want to check out this awesome product, I left a link down in the description below for you, but I'll kind of go through some of the specs on it. It's actually a 1.5 inch by 5.5 inch by 78 3/4 inch. So it's roughly about a little over 6.5 feet long for each piece. So, and this is what the profile looks like here. This is from the side and this is from the front. And their sample picture looks pretty much like my kitchen, where I have a white ceiling and I have a red wall. So this is what it looks like after it's all done. And I highly recommend it. It's really easy to work with. One thing that I love about it is it's so lightweight and it is more pliable, which means you can move it around and bend it around a lot easier than wood. Like whenever wood dries, it's not as flexible. So this stuff here will contour not only the ceiling, but also the wall. So, but this is a close-up of the seams. And this is actually two pieces right here. Let me zoom out. So this is one piece, and you can kind of see the seam right there. And then I ran another piece right there. And then I've got another piece right here, and the seam is right there in the middle. It's kind of hard to see it. And then I have another long piece run, and then, so basically for each stretch of the wall I use two pieces. So there's one there, one there, one there, one there, and that's one full stretch. And then these were multiple pieces, which this was probably the most difficult section right here because I had a lot of different angles to cut. I had to go in, out around this box and in this little section here. And then I have this portion that came out. I believe this kitchen here only cost me around $70. Actually, I think $68, because they're roughly about $7 to $6 for each piece, which is really, really cheap. There's different ways of mounting this. You can also mount it with a nail gun, but I wouldn't recommend it because if you put too much pressure on this material, it actually leaves a little dent. So the best way that I found to mount this stuff is to use this double back taping made by 3M. You basically just apply it to the back portion right here and right here. You can also use some caulking and put a nice bead all in these grooves here in the top and bottom, and then you can mount it onto the wall, into the ceiling. So with this particular piece here, this is actually the bottom and this is the top. So I'll show you really quick. As you can see right there, so this is with it unfinished, and this is what it looks like once you paint it. And I would say the most difficult part for me was to make sure I get the edges nice and smooth. So you will have to sand it down whenever you cut it. As you can see here, you get these rough edges like this. But I just basically used a little sand block and then a fine grit sandpaper to smooth out the edges. And that's pretty much it. So the only cons with this material is if you press on it too hard or it gets banged up, it will cause a little indentation. I'll show you here real quick. If you put a lot of pressure on it, it'll leave a dent. But if it does that, it's not really a big deal. You can also fill it in with this all-purpose plaster here, and then you can sand it down, because that's what I actually used to fill in the gaps. So there is actually, if you look right here, you can kind of slightly see it right there where that seam is at. There was a seam right there. I need to paint one more coat over that. There was also a seam right there. It's kind of hard to see it, but right over here was a seam. And then there was another seam right there. You should be able to see it at an angle right there. So what I like about this material again is it's very lightweight and it's easy to cut into. I'll show you some pieces here that I actually cut. So you can actually cut it very thin. I even cut a really thin strip right here because I had to make some adjustments. It's always nice to cut this stuff and make sure that it's a little bit longer than what you need, because you can always trim off a little bit more. But if you cut too much off, you're gonna end up having to piece another longer piece together, and it's a lot more work. When it comes to joining different seams, you can either use this all-purpose plaster, or you can use some caulking, or you can also use super glue. And I actually did a variety of both the glue and the all-purpose plaster. So I actually used the glue to seam the two together, and then if there's any imperfections or any cracks, I actually used this all-purpose plaster to fill it in, and then I just sanded it down to make it nice and smooth. And then once you're all done, then it's ready to paint. So here's the miter box that I use to do all the cuts. I use this little saw right here. It's a fine tooth saw, and here's all the extra material that I had after I did all the cuts. But it's really easy to cut into this stuff. Literally all you need is these angles right here. You have the straight up and down 90-degree angle and these 245s. The most important thing to do whenever you're cutting this stuff is to make sure you identify your top and your bottom, because you don't want to do a cut upside down on accident. So I also like to use a pen to mark off where the angle is going to go. So sometimes I'll do a marking on the actual back part here and onto the side, so I can tell where my cut needs to be at. So you can kind of see how I have some pen marks here. But basically, if this is where I wanted the measurement to be and this is the length, I would match this up with this little piece right here, just like so. I basically pretend that this is the wall, and I actually place the bottom piece flush and flat with the miter box. I want to do a cut where I have a wall and I want to make the two join up together. This one, we want it to be angled this way, so I'm going to go ahead and cut this really quick for you. Just hold that into place and let the saw do all the work. Don't press too hard down, because then you're going to flatten it out. And that's how fast it cuts. And this is the other piece that I need for it to join up. And I made that cut already, and I just hold it up just like that, so that when you're looking at it downward, you can see the 45-degree angle. So once you have these two pieces, now you can actually mount it on the ceiling just like this. So you should have something that looks like that. And any gaps that you might have, you can use some caulking, or like I said, you can use that all-purpose putty, and you can fill in the gaps. So this is what it would look like on the ceiling. Just like that, and this is the outside. So it's definitely easier if you paint the molding before it goes up on the wall, but if you haven't done that, the easiest way to paint this particular molding and to also caulk on the top and bottom seams is to use some painter's tape. But I found using painter's tape is the best thing to do on the bottom portion whenever you're caulking, and also when you're painting. And for the top, you don't really need to use painter's tape, because if your ceiling is white, you won't really notice if you have some excess caulk bleeding over onto the ceiling. So that's what that looks like. And we'll go around the whole thing for you. But this roughly cost me about $70 total for the material, and I just installed everything myself. I want to say it was around $7 a piece, and each piece is about 6.5 feet long. But if you were to do this with regular wood, it'd be costly. But I highly recommend using this stuff because it looks just like wood and no one else will be able to tell. As a matter of fact, all my friends and family think it is actually wood, but I told them it's actually styrofoam. But it has a really nice finish to it, and once you put some paint on there, it looks amazing. Since I'm all done with this crown molding, my next step is to tackle the wall, repaint all of this, and also repaint and refinish the cabinets. They're two-tone right now, which I'm not crazy about. Some of them are not even painted yet. So be sure to subscribe to the channel and you'll be able to stay up to date on all my new home projects. So if you enjoyed this video, definitely give it a big thumbs up for me. If you have any questions, definitely leave those in the comment section below. But please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video. And as always, thank you for watching.